Fires a three. Bang! Devin Booker from downtown. It's a three-point game. Wilder's right hand is Thor's hammer, and here in round one, he is Ragnarocking Stavern.
All right, welcome to the First Whistle, where we bring you all things NHL, NBA, UFC, as well as the sport of boxing. My name is Jagraj. A pleasure to be one of your hosts for this podcast. With me are two of the people that I've known for a very long time, Mr. Harsimar Singh Nijjar, as well as Mr. Aryan Mahe. Fellas, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Going good, man.
Are you guys excited to, finally get this running?
Man.
We've had this idea for quite a long time.
Yeah, man. Excited to actually start doing it.
Oh,
Yeah, finally, and it's a good time period to do it too. The juicy news is coming in already.
Yeah.
New season all over the place. The basketball season, preseason started up yesterday with the Timberwolves and Mavs in Abu Dhabi, and then now we have the Raptors and Kings also playing here in our hometown of Vancouver. So I'm looking forward to, I can't be able to go to that game, but I'm looking forward to see what the community vibe around it is like.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. Sadly, I couldn't go either. I got to go to work, but I'll definitely be watching it at home.
They've been in Vancouver for a while, actually. Garrett Temple's actually donating to the student union in SFU, so looks like they like it here a bit.
So I want us to dive right into it. Let's start off with the NBA because, like I mentioned in our little intro there, that we're going to be covering 4 major sports, and we'll take a look at some today. So let's take a look at that one trade that's caught the NBA by storm in the last couple of weeks, with Portland trading Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks, with Portland receiving back Jrue Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Toumani Camara, a 2029 unprotected Milwaukee first, add pick swaps in 2028 and 2030. Phoenix was also the third team on this trade, and they received Yusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on the winners and losers of this trade. We'll start with you, Aryan.
First of all, the biggest loser in this trade who wasn't even involved with the trade was definitely the Miami Heat. They let go of Gabe Vincent and Max Strus to clear cap space, so they didn't have to throw in additional assets for Damian Lillard. So they lost 2 key rotational players. Not only that, they were just striving to get Damian Lillard to fill in that point guard hole. And not only that, they involved Tyler Hero in trade talks. Tyler Hero, the chemistry is not going to be there. As far as the winners, you can't really tell right away. The Suns, they got depth. They had to give up their number 1 overall pick, DeAndre, and they got back pretty good assets. They got a good defensive double-double center known as Yusuf Nurkic. They also got Grayson Allen, who could shoot over 36% from 3. They got a really good defender in Nasir Little, and they got a good third-string point guard in Keon Johnson. The Bucks, I love this trade for them. They traded away Jrue Holiday. Now, there is going to be a hole at the defensive point guard position, but you got Giannis on that team. You got Brook Lopez on that team. You got these pretty good defenders on the team that can make up for that. And they had to give up Jrue Holiday and Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen is definitely going to hurt, but it does open up more minutes for players like Malik Beasley, Pat Connaughton, of course, Marjon Beauchamp. And I'm going to say this right now, the Trailblazers, they got a haul. I'm pretty sure we all know this. DeAndre Ayton, he is no slouch. He just needs a better, landscape in order to thrive under, this new system under Chauncey Billups. They got Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams. Of course, they traded away Jrue Holiday. And in total, they got Toumani Camara, Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams. They also, they got those picks in 29 from the Celtics and Bucks. They got pick swaps, of course. And they also got a 2024 top 4 protected Golden State pick. And looking at that, it's looking very, very good. It's looking like a very good future for Portland, and I just love the trade for them. They got a really good haul for them. They definitely got a better trade from Milwaukee than they could have gotten from Miami.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. The biggest losers are definitely Miami for not making a single move. But if we're talking about the three teams a part of this trade, there's necessarily no losers in this trade. Bucks got Dame, exactly what they needed. Suns needed depth, and they also honestly needed to get rid of Ayton because he was slowly becoming just becoming toxic in the locker room. And Blazers, that it's a good thing they got rid of Drew Holiday because they already had guys like Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons. So I think trading Drew for Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams was a great move by them.
I just wanted to touch up a bit. I know we were talking about the winners and losers team wise about this trade, but there's so many individual aspects, individual winners of this trade as well. Let's start with Giannis Antetokounmpo. He gave the Bucks their first NBA championship in 50 years with a great run in the playoffs and the 2021 finals run. Had a 50-point performance in the game clinching and the series clinching game, should I say. But since then, the Bucks, they fell short in both seasons, obviously with Boston in game 7 in 2022. And they were on the wrong end of a 1-8 seed upset in the past year's playoffs with the Miami Heat. And we know earlier this season, Giannis spent his summer publicly telling the Bucks that he wasn't going to be satisfied with one championship. And rumors began to swirl around about Giannis's future in Milwaukee. But the Bucks trade for Dame now. I don't think it happens without Giannis making those threats. Who could have foreseen that Damian Lillard would go to Milwaukee? There was that sort of dream scenario, in a whole other world, a whole other universe, this happens. And now with Giannis on there, not only do you make your star player happy, but the franchise and the fan base is happy as a whole. And the Bucks were considered a championship contender even before the Dame trade, but it was hard to be confident in them because of that first round collapse. It obviously cost head coach Mike Budenholzer his job, and Adrian Griffin, who Aryan I know you're very familiar with. He's now the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. They brought back Brooke Lopez, Chris Middleton. I think that's up there definitely with one of the top fours in the NBA. Another winner I'd say of this trade is probably DeAndre Ayton. Things haven't really been the same after that finals run. Obviously, Phoenix did select Ayton with the number 1 overall pick over Luka Doncic, Trae Young. And after that 2021 finals run, the relationship between Ayton and the Suns was fractured. He didn't get along with Monty Williams, and the Suns didn't treat him like a star player. Obviously, they had Chris Paul, Devin Booker in 2020. Now with Kevin Durant on that roster as well, DA wanted to be seen as the leader of the team, the star player. I'm not sure where Phoenix is, a winner in this trade. Obviously, they did get depth, but Yusuf Nurkic, he's been pretty unreliable the last few years, and he doesn't have the same potential that DeAndre Ayton had, although I did think the Suns used up as much as they could of DeAndre Ayton. He wasn't going to get anywhere with the relationship of the franchise being like that as well. So a lot of winners and losers in that trade. But I think for what it's worth, the Suns were able to get as much as they could for DeAndre Ayton because his value was not going to be as even more than it was now. Now I just wanted to move on to the second part of that trade where Drew Holiday, he wasn't going to stay into Portland. They're already stacked with the young core of guards that they have with Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, and co. He got traded then to the Boston Celtics, and coming back the other way, Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, the main two pieces of that trade. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on that specific deal between Boston and Portland. Aryan, we'll have you go first.
First of all, let's look at Portland. Over the last 10 years, what centers have they had that made a big impact? They had LaMarcus Aldridge, who kind of played more of the 4 spot, and then they have Yusuf Nurkic. They're not the best. Yusuf Nurkic, he had a bad contract. I'm glad they moved on from him. But now they got DeAndre Ayton, who's a really good offensive center. They can have him playing the 4, actually. You get Robert Williams, 6'9", he's really good shot blocker, can play the interior defense. He's really good. So they got their franchise cornerstones in their centers, which I really liked. Malcolm Brogdon, I don't see him being a part of that team. They could perhaps maybe flip him to, maybe a Miami, maybe the 76ers, maybe the Clippers. But, I think he will be a good locker room presence. If I'm talking as if from the Celtics POV, I love it. first of all, you do have to give up your center in Robert Williams because, as we know, Porzingis isn't known to be the most healthiest player on the team. Then you also got Malcolm Brogdon. Of course, Malcolm Brogdon was going to be a part of that Kristaps Porzingis trade. Of course, Clippers did back out. They had to throw in Marcus Smart, but they did get a good haul back. The only thing I'm worried about with the Celtics with this trade is just the team being healthy. You know, you got that good backcourt now of Derek White and Drew Holiday, who both made all defensive teams. Porzingis is a good shot blocker, good rim protector, which is what you need on a championship team. You got the Jays, of course. Their bench isn't the worst either. They were able to pick up some really key pieces. And to be honest, with this trade, I could see the Celtics having probably a top 3 defensive rating in the NBA. They might not come in as number one just due to like the injury concerns. Because remember, you're relying on a 38-year-old Al Horford to be the second string center, alongside with Porzingis, who isn't the most healthy. So you know they signed Wenyen Gabriel, a 7-footer who could definitely be a shot blocker. But you know, I'm just really worried about the center depth for them. But you know they got the best defensive backcourt in the NBA, in my opinion, and now they got probably the best defensive point guard in the NBA as well. So, you know, if they make a couple of moves to get some good centers, you know, that could actually, be starting caliber, I see this trade being an A+. Of course, Trailblazers, they got a haul in return. They got 2 first-round picks. They got a Golden State top 3 or top 4 protected from the Andre Iguodala salary dump, and they got unprotected first in 29, which is going to be very valuable. So, yeah, that's just my opinion overall.
Yeah,
Right.
I think both the teams won because if I'm talking from a Trailblazers perspective, they got a lot of value with just for Drew Holiday, just because we're all forgetting Robert Williams. Yeah, he got injured, but he's only 25, man. He can make an insane comeback. On top of that, Malcolm Brogdon, he won 6 Man of the Year not too long ago, right? Uh, but then you switch it the other way, looking at Celtics, they're looking dangerous, man. They're gonna come into the playoffs blazing. It's gonna be insane.
We've seen that Celtics general manager Brad Stevens, he's not afraid to make these moves. First, like Marcus Smart, the heart and soul of this franchise, you could say, was beloved by the community. Everyone loved Marcus Smart. They trade him to Memphis, and in that Kristaps Porzingis deal that brought KP to Boston. Now they trade another fan favorite, Robert Williams, who was well known for his community work in Boston, and they get rid of him as well because GM Brad Stevens, he's one of my favorite general managers in the league. He knows that, okay, this core is not going to work. We've tried it long enough. Time to make some moves. He makes those moves, and I do see Boston is looking real dangerous right now. Hopefully we get that Milwaukee-Boston series in the playoffs, regardless of hopefully not one of them making an early exit. Let's take a look at the CP3 to the Warriors deal, because that earlier trade that brought Bradley Beal to Phoenix, Chris Paul was sent to Washington with Landry Shamet and a bunch of draft capital. But Chris Paul was then traded to the Warriors in exchange for Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma, forming their own duo up in Washington. Just wanted to get your guys' initial thoughts on how you think CP3 will fare up with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Aryan, you go first.
So if I'm looking at just the Warriors, so they won a championship, right? They went ahead, they traded away James Wiseman for 2nd-round picks, which they used those 2nd-round picks for Gary Payton to get a key piece of the championship run back. So first of all, you get one young player gone. Number 2, they went ahead and traded away the Jordan Poole, whose contract wasn't the best. So I actually do agree with them trading because they were going to be heavily in the luxury tax. They're going to pay a lot more. So I do agree with the trade. But getting a 38-year-old Chris Paul when you gave up Jordan Poole, Patrick Baldwin Jr., Ryan Rollins, who are good rotational players that just need time to develop, and especially with the team like Golden State, they're really good for developing their players. They had to give up those 2 assets, and they also had to give up, I believe, a 2030 first-round pick, which is heavily protected, by the way. But all that for Chris Paul. Now, if I'm looking at this from a Warriors perspective, you save money, but what do you get in return? Chris Paul starting on the Warriors does not make sense for me. I think he should come off the bench because you can't have Andrew Wiggins or Klay Thompson guarding the likes of Giannis. You can't have Draymond being reliable and guarding all these like top-notch centers. Draymond's one of the best defenders in the NBA. But when you have someone like Kevon Looney on the team, I would rather have him have a lineup of, the Splash Bros, Wiggins, Draymond, and Looney. So I don't really agree with them starting Chris Paul. I think they should definitely have him come off the bench, play with the second unit, play with Kaminga, and just get more familiarized with that. But if I'm just looking at this overall, I don't really like it for the Warriors because we're looking at like when's their window over? They need to win a championship soon, right? They can make a deep push, but of course, I know teams that are way better than the Warriors right now. Of course, we got the Suns that bring NBA champions, the Nuggets. You could even argue the Lakers are way better than them. So, is Chris Paul the answer? Who knows? We'll see. But if Chris Paul does come off the bench, we definitely know he could definitely win Sixth Man of the Year. But overall, I'd say Warriors do lose right now, but long term it's gonna work out for them. And then the Wizards, they won that trade in my opinion. Like you get Jordan Poole, you get two young players and a first round pick, which you can move on from. I really like that trade for them.
Yeah, I think Wizards definitely won the trade, but I love the move for Warriors, honestly. As long as Chris Paul comes off the bench, I love this move. Because, I mean, yeah, he's 38, but he's still averaging like 10 assists, like 15 points. He still has it. He might, but last year he was injured, but you can't, I mean, we don't know the future, right? He might get injured again, he might not, but he's still a fantastic player.
But with me being a follower of the Phoenix Suns, obviously Chris Paul was there for 3 years, and I had the opportunity to have Chris Paul on the team alongside D Book. And although, yes, you're right, Chris Paul is 38, but he's one of those pure point guards that's so hard to find in the NBA. We've been worrying about the fit. How is he going to fit next to the Warriors? What's it going to look like? But did you guys know that one person not worrying about the fit is Steph Curry? Curry said, and I quote, "It's mad fun playing next to Paul. I get the rebound and push. I can throw it ahead in transition, knowing he's pretty sure with the ball. He makes the right decision. He's been really good catching and shooting when he's open, moving without the basketball. It's pretty seamless. Obviously, if that's going to transition onto the NBA court, we're going to have to wait and see. But Paul's no stranger to playing with superstar guards. He's played with James Harden, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, most recently Devin Booker. And the Rockets, Thunder, and the Suns, they all found significant success when those duos shared the floor. The Suns had the most success making that finals run in 2021. But it'll definitely be interesting to watch throughout the season, and we'll make sure to bring that topic up in future episodes. But let's talk about that Western Conference. There's so many teams you could look at to be perennial contenders: the Nuggets, the Suns, the Lakers, the Clippers, if healthy. I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on who your favorites are in the West.
The Nuggets lost Bruce Brown, but they were preparing for that. They traded away a first round pick, got three second round picks, got three NBA ready talent from this past year's draft class. The Nuggets, I would say they're up there. I'm just worried about are they really going to you know, be as good as they were because, of course they lost Bruce Brown. But one thing we gotta know is Jokic makes every player on his team better. We know they're getting active at the deadline. We know they got good draft capital. They got Mike Malone, who's probably one of the best coaches in the league. I have them coming out as the number one seed. I don't see the Suns, and Lakers too far off from them, but I have the Nuggets coming out, and they could definitely go back to back. Jokic is the best player in the NBA, and we saw what he did to pretty much all of them. They did not face a single elimination game, right? And just looking at like what Jokic is, their team is still pretty locked up. Jamal Murray's still under contract. Michael Porter Jr. is still under contract. Jokic signed that Supermax last season. They're going to be eligible for another one soon, right? Of course, Aaron Gordon, he's a really good defender. They got him. They got KCP who's still under contract, right? They got Chris Braun who showed a really good game at the finals. Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan, they have all those players. So you know what? I definitely do have them coming out of the NBA, out of the West, but I would just be a little bit worried. The Lakers aren't too far off from them now. They closed that gap, and of course the Suns, they got insane depth now. So we're just gonna see. We're just gonna have to see, if injuries, compromise any of those teams. So yeah, Nuggets for sure for me.
I believe that the Nuggets are also gonna make it. 'Cause, like, there's nobody that could guard Jokic. Like Anthony Davis tried, he couldn't. He just couldn't. But also, I I'm gonna just throw this out there. Timberwolves could get up there, especially if Cat doesn't get injured.
With media day happening a couple of days ago, Yusuf Nurkic, the starting center for the Suns, he mentioned that Jokic is just one of those players, no matter who you put on him, you can't guard him. It's no surprise that the Denver Nuggets are up at the betting odds right now. They're the defending champions, right? So until someone beats them, until someone knocks them off that ladder, they're the team to beat. Jokic, obviously, he has shown a true display of dominance all season long last year. And then with Jamal Murray, played in my opinion, the best non-bubble ball, because he was a different beast in that 2020 NBA bubble. Him and Donovan Mitchell, that one series, they went back and forth. It all came down to a 2-point win for the Nuggets in Game 7. And so most of that Nuggets team from last year is going to return, but the hope is that even though Bruce Brown, that six man for them, is gone, they can fill that gap up. But as Aryan was saying, the Suns and Lakers are not too far behind, especially with that new Lakers team, the depth, Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, that Eastern Conference, the Bucks and Celtics, they're up there.
Man,
With those two teams are, the East looks like it's not tough, but come playoff time, you really do realize how tough of a conference that is. The Miami Heat, they literally came out of nowhere last year, 8 seed, a play-in team, made it all the way to the NBA Finals. Jimmy Butler is a different beast during the East, so I wanted to get your guys' favorites in the Eastern Conference so far. We'll start off with Aryan.
Bucks. Bucks are coming out of the East, in my opinion. I know the Celtics, they got Drew Holiday, but if you think about it, Marcus Smart, right? He was just as good as Drew Holiday. But Drew Holiday was better offensively and defensively. They got better. But are you really gonna rely on Porzingis guarding Giannis? Are you really gonna rely on Al Horford, who isn't bad guarding Giannis? Are you gonna really rely on him, someone who's gonna be 39 at the time? The pick and roll is gonna be crazy. The reason why the Bucks lost to the Heat is because scoring job. You got Damian Lillard on your team, who averaged what, 30 points plus. You got Giannis on your team too. The pick and roll is gonna be unstoppable. Dame is one of the best 3-point shooters. He can close games, and we know that. They're gonna be able to easily dog walk the East. I think it's obviously going to be a conference bout between them and the Celtics. I have the Bucks being the 1 seed, Celtics being the 2 seed. The meeting in the conference finals, we could see a potential 7-game series. But Nuggets versus Bucks NBA finals doesn't seem too bad. Who is the best player in the NBA? We'll find out if that does happen. So yeah.
yeah, dude, I'm looking at this, and in my opinion, I don't even have Philly on my mind. I'm throwing Philly out the window, bro. I'm looking at
For sure.
Bucks, Celtics, and Cavaliers. Those are the three
Mm.
teams I'm looking at right now because it's like they all have a kryptonite for each other. They, in some way, they could stop one another. But in my opinion, man, I gotta go with Celtics. I gotta go with Celtics. I think they'll make it.
I agree with you, Harsimar. I'm going to have to choose the Boston Celtics as well. They spent most of last season as the outright favorites in the Eastern Conference, and they were the ones seed up until some injury problems plagued that squad. Obviously, Robert Williams was out for half the season, so that really hurt them at the center position. But they had that good run in the playoffs until they ran into a very hot Miami Heat squad. They came up to 3-0. Obviously, part of me still wishes the Celtics came back in Game 7 last year, because that would have been talked about for generations to come. The only team to come back down 3-0. And not even to mention, Brad Stevens, like I was mentioning, he knew that it was time to make a change. Brings in Kristaps Porzingis, brings in Drew Holiday. He sent out fan favorites in Marcus Smart and Robert Williams, but that's what a smart general manager would do. He knows what's best for his squad. And Holiday, I'd say he's probably the only player in the NBA who's a functional upgrade over Marcus Smart on both sides of the ball.
100%.
I feel like he's going to be kind of overqualified as a fourth option, but it's better to have someone who you can trust on both the defensive side of the basketball as well as on the offense. Yeah, Drew Holiday's a bit shaky when it comes to playoffs. He's had like his up and down moments. He can be a streaky player at times, but Boston really is looking like a great force to come. The only concern I have with that team is the depth. The same thing that the Suns had last year. Several key roles left with Grant Williams, Robert Williams. He obviously was gone as well. So keeping Porzingis healthy is going to be crucial, as is like how this new team comes together. But despite a strong rotation, it's going to take some sorting by head coach Joe Mazzulla to make sure that his squad is ready to go. For our last topic here in the NBA, I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on the Toronto Raptors direction. Where is this team headed? What would you guys rate their offseason? They're Canada's team. We gotta cover it on. So
Represent.
Aryan, I'm gonna start with you here. The Raptors faithful. Raptors are your favorite team. So let's start with your opinion.
Masai Ujiri, man, he's probably one of the best GMs in the NBA, but he's just been off a slouch recently. Like trading away Kem Birch, right? I don't really care about, but giving up a first round pick for Jakob not to make the playoffs, it is top six protected by the way in this coming draft. I'm not the biggest fan of. Now, the Raptors' direction is looking really weird because they want to win now, but look at what you have to deal with the next offseason. OG Anunoby, expiring contract. He's going to ask for 30 plus mil. Siakam makes an All NBA team. He is going to be eligible for over 250 million. I don't know if you want to commit that much money to someone like Siakam, but you got to make a decision. Do you want Anunoby on the team, who's probably one of the best wing defenders in the NBA? Do you want Scotty Barnes to play the point guard role? I mean, he is 6'11" now, I believe, 240 pounds. He could definitely go ahead and play make. His shooting ability isn't the best, though, shooting 29% from this past season. But of course, we got to remember that Masai Ujiri, he always comes through. I mean, he made that big blockbuster trade for Kawhi Leonard. You know, they fired Nick Nurse, which, and honestly, looking back at it, I think was the right move. Darko Rajakovic fits the team better. Hopefully, he will use that 9 to 10 man bench, and hopefully, we just get a better use of this team, this roster this year. So hopefully, get some improvement and not avoid the play.
Yeah, I think they just gotta go into a rebuild, man. I think they should keep Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick, and just get rid of everyone else. Maybe if you want to keep OG, but OG is 26, I believe, and on an expiring contract, as you said. So if they want to do a sign and trade, that could be great. But with Pascal Siakam, I don't know how that's gonna go, man. It's looking tough for the Raptors.
I don't know about you guys, but it seemed from the training camp, like from the moment that training camp started, something was off about that Raptors team. It wasn't really clear then, but Fred VanVleet later admitted he was running around yelling at everyone because he knew things weren't headed in the right direction. Freddie, obviously, he came into that leadership role. He was a part of that 2019 championship team. And for a little while, things seemed to be okay for the Raptors while the season kept going on. But Pascal Siakam's injury and a 4-11 stretch in late November and early December quickly sent things sideways. Chemistry was never the same, and on-court disagreements between players and eventually a head coach all but begging to be fired. We know Nick Nurse wanted out of Toronto. It was pretty clear. They lost guys like Delano Banton as well. And their biggest loss was Fred VanVleet, who's now in Houston. He seems to be doing well in Houston, has a new veteran leadership role there. As I can really say, VanVleet is probably the new leader of that team. His veteran leadership will hopefully get Houston past the 15th seed in the conference. Let's hope for that. But yeah, I hope that the Raptors do really well. Let's take a look into the boxing scene now. October 14th, the Prime Misfits boxing card coming up with the main event being KSI taking on Tommy Fury and Logan Paul taking on Dylan Dennis. It's obviously a huge card stack from top to bottom, but I really wanted to take a look at those two fights more in detail. And I just want to get your guys' opinion as well. What do you guys just think about the overall growth of Misfits throughout these past few years? We'll start with you, Aryan.
Misfits as a whole, they're probably going to do really good for the next year. But, you know, when KSI does retire from boxing, I don't see too much hype happening. We could be wrong, though. Who never knows? We got a lot of the rising stars. So, in my opinion, you know, I think the company's going to do really good. They got another 5-year contract with DAZN. But going into the prime card, I definitely do have Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis. I think that's actually gonna be a closer fight than people think. Dylan Dennis he might not fight a lot, but he's a really good trainer. He trains and spars with a lot of people. I think Logan will get the edge of him, but I think it's gonna be a decision win. I don't think Logan can knock him out. I think he will knock Dylan down, but I don't think he's gonna knock him out. Logan Paul via unanimous decision. KSI versus Tommy Fury. I can never bet against KSI. KSI is just, like, there's no way he's going into this fight without training the necessary, jabs, punches, movements, all this. I got KSI winning that fight. I think it's either going to be a knockout, which I do think he has the ability to knock out Tommy Fury. I mean, Tommy Fury got knocked down via jab from Jake Paul. I definitely do have KSI winning via decision. I think he could knock him down, but maybe knockout could happen too. But yeah, those are my overall predictions.
So talk about Misfits. I think this will be the biggest card they'll ever have, in my opinion, because you'll never have another guy like Dylan Dennis, in my opinion, promoting the fight the way he is. On top of that, with KSI being there, but I like King Kenny is on the rise. He could really just promote Misfits really well in the future, but for now, I think this fight's gonna be the best they got. And with predictions, Tommy versus KSI, I definitely got Tommy winning. I'm not gonna lie. He has every physical advantage, but on top of that, he's been doing this since he was younger. And on top of that, he has a win over Jake Paul, which KSI, I doubt he wants to fight Jake, honestly. And then if we move on to Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis, I mean, Logan Paul's coming with the emotion. Like he better knock him out, or else there's something wrong with him. After all that talk, like he has to do it. He has no other option. If he loses, like it's over for him. Jag, what do you think?
Just speaking to the growth and improvement of Misfits as a whole, I feel like the past 2 years or so, KSI has really stepped up the game in terms of promotion. Obviously, Jake Paul has his most valuable promotions, and everyone has their own promotions. But what KSI is doing in terms of influencer boxing as well, it's something that we've never really seen before. Tommy Fury, he proved against Jake Paul that there's levels to this. There's influencer boxing, there's doing this for a few years, and there's also doing this like you've practiced boxing your whole life. You've done boxing your whole life. From what I've seen, KSI is willing to go to that highest level. He's willing to put in the work. He's willing to dedicate himself towards the game. And it doesn't even seem like he's doing it for the fame or money. He's doing it because he loves boxing. All these influencer boxers, including Jake Paul, in my opinion, they just want to put on a show for money. They don't care about, oh, I want to reach the highest pinnacles of sport. I want to be a champion in boxing someday. From what I've seen in KSI's career so far, he's not taking those money fights. He's doing this strategically. He's doing this the way he wants to make sure that he has that strength in his boxing career to improve and keep honing his skill every time he goes out. If in terms of predictions, I definitely say KSI by unanimous decision. I think that Tommy Fury, he obviously, he did get knocked down by Jake Paul. We saw that was the weakness. That was the opening that was visible through that fight. And KSI, I remember him saying, I just need to see one weakness of yours, and that'll give me the power to beat you in the fight. And just like that, Jake Paul was able to expose that weakness of Tommy Fury, got knocked down. And after that, with the way that things are going on right now, I do feel like KSI by unanimous decision. Well, looking back at our co-main event, Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis, if that fight even happens, I'd definitely give it to Logan Paul. He's got the size advantage. He's taller, and he's also got the boxing experience as well. He's fought Floyd Mayweather, the greatest of all time, in my opinion, at least. Others may have their own opinion. He's fought Floyd Mayweather. He's fought KSI twice as well. And look at them now. They're best friends. They're business partners. And so I really think looking back at it, Logan Paul is gonna be the winner by unanimous decision. But imagine Dylan Dennis somehow pulls off even a knockout against Logan Paul after everything that he said, all the things that have been said on Twitter, everything that's been said on social media all around to Logan's fiance as well. Could you imagine the scenes if Dylan Dennis was somehow able to pick up a victory? Things would go crazy. With that being said, I feel like there's still one more thing I really do want to touch up in boxing, and that is what happened to Kingpin. Gibb, at the beginning of the summer, he put on such a great tournament. Austin McBroom was also a part of it. Jarvis was a part of it. All these influencers were a part of that tournament. So what even happened to it?
This was money, man. I mean, like they had this $1 million tournament. They're not even paying their fighters, right? Right? They went bankrupt. Like it's just money. Like they couldn't fund the main event. They couldn't fund the tournament because they were getting fight purses. They just couldn't fund it. The zone came in, try to help them out, but it looks like they just didn't want to go up. Maybe they're losing money on the event. They weren't having enough money to give out. The zone didn't give them enough of a budget. Of course, Gibb was behind one of the kingpins. Like he was probably behind it. Of course, it wasn't his tournament, but Jarvis, McBroom, my mate Nate, King Kenny, and Whindersson Nunes, all those people were part of the tournament. Just didn't work out. Simply just didn't work out money wise, and we got my mate Nate fighting Whindersson Nunes in the KSI undercard, and then we also have a lot of other fights that were supposed to be on Kingpin. Fighters being on Misfits Prime card. So yeah, it's just money. Yeah, simple. To put it in simple terms.
On top of that, I would say also promotion as well, because only the people that look into the fight game knew about this. I didn't see anything else apart from that. There was no real promotion, nothing. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they rented out the whole revenue, but they only barely sold out lower bowl seats. And it was just really bad. I don't even think they could pay their fighters. I'm pretty sure some fighters still haven't been paid.
For sure, for sure. Obviously Kingpin, it's one of those cases where I was telling you guys earlier as well. There are fighters who care about the money and the fighters who care about the sport. In my opinion, Gibb is one of those fighters that really doesn't care about boxing. I think he was in it for the money. He tried his best. He tried his best, should I say, at promoting this card, but things just really didn't work out. So with King Kenny now being on that prime card, we'll just have to see if there is a future for Kingpin Boxing, because they never really made an official statement on if the promotion was closing or not. Want to move on now to MMA, mixed martial arts, everyone's favorite topic. And we have a huge card coming up October 21st, UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi, the main event. Islam Makhachev defending his UFC lightweight championship against former champion Charles Oliveira. The co-main event, Paulo Costa takes on Khamzat Chimaev in a middleweight bout. Those two fights, just those two fights, literally, like that's enough to get a UFC fan pulled towards the card. But that it just doesn't stop there. That third fight, Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker in the light heavyweight division. Gentlemen, how could you not love this card? I want to start off with your guys' initial thoughts on the card, followed by your predictions for each of those three fights. Aryan, we'll start with you.
We'll go from top to bottom. So of course you got the main event, Oliveira and Makhachev. I got Oliveira getting the redemption. He's had a lot of holes in his game. So I think he's gonna get him within 2 to 3 rounds. Most likely a stoppage, of course, it's gonna happen within that time span. Costa Chimaev. I think Costa's gonna get the better of Chimaev. We saw how he did against Burns. Wasn't the best. His cardio was pretty gassy. He did get the window, got knocked down a couple of times, I believe, and wasn't just the most fluid performance. When was the last time Chimaev fought? Was probably a year ago, actually, on the Nate Diaz, Tony Ferguson undercard, I believe it was. But I just think Costa is just gonna be better, more fluid. I really am worried about the weight for both these men. It is a middleweight bout. You see how Costa and Chimaev do with weight issues. So hopefully there is a really good incentive in for them. They make weight. Of course, Magomedov and Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Magomedov went the distance with the Blachowicz, and then of course the draw. I got Magomedov winning this one. I think Walker's a really good fighter. I just think he has a lot of holes in his games. I think the wrestling is definitely going to get to Walker as well. And, of course, these Dagestanis, man, like these Russians, these guys just apparently know what to do. But overall, just in a serious note, I got Magomedov Ankalaev winning via decision over Johnny Walker. It's a 3-round fight. So, yeah. But that's
Yeah,
all I got to say.
yeah, and I'll start from top as well, bro. Islam, as we saw recently, Khabib is back in training camp with Islam, and I mean we know how that duel is. I 100% believe that Islam is gonna beat Charles Oliveira. Will it be the same as the first fight? I hope not, because I am a fan of Charles Oliveira, but I hope that's not how it goes. But I still believe Islam's gonna win. With Paul Costa and Hamza Chimaev, uh, I think Chimaev's gonna take it, man. I truly believe Chimaev's gonna take it. That secret juice isn't gonna work for Paul Costa this time. And with Magomedov Ankalaev and Johnny Walker, man, we saw the performance Ankalaev put up against Jan Blachowicz. That was an amazing fight, and I truly believe he's gonna bring the same thing to this fight. If not, he's gonna be better.
Well, let's just start off by appreciating that card, UFC 294, or just appreciating the UFC in general. Like Dana White keeps on putting on bangers after bangers, and 294 with Oliveira Makachev, 295 Jones and Miocic, which we'll get into later on. But have you guys seen that UFC 296 card? Absolutely insane. We're gonna have to get together for that one, eh?
For sure.
All right, let me start off with my predictions for 294. Our top fight, the main event of the evening, Islam Makhachev defending against Charles Oliveira. Let me start off by saying Charles Oliveira, I've been a fan of for a very long time now. Ever since he beat Tony Ferguson, I've seen this guy has that killer mentality. He has that mentality to ensure he is able to go through any opponent he wishes to. And he was actually talking to the media a few months ago where he was actually here. Me and Aryan actually attended that press conference at UFC 289 against Beneil Dariush when the UFC came to Vancouver. And Charles Oliveira admit he wasn't 100% in that fight. He wasn't 100% himself. He was only 10% himself. And with that being said, I really do think Oliveira is going to be better in this fight, but Harsimar, as you were saying, ESPN reported Khabib Nurmagomedov is back in Islam's corner for this one. Today actually marks 5 years since UFC 229, Khabib versus McGregor.
Wow.
And Islam Makhachev was in Khabib's corner for that fight. And we all saw what happened after the fight ended. So with that being said, I'd say this will be Islam Makhachev taking it round 4 submission. That is my prediction. As much as I want Oliveira to win, if Oliveira does win, he's going to have to constantly apply the pressure on the feet because Alexander Volkanovski, he pointed out Islam's weaknesses. He made it look like these Dagestanis are not invincible. He brought out the best in Islam. Should Volk have won that fight? People debate it. But my prediction is Islam round 4 submission. Our middleweight co-main event, Paulo Costa, who's been at middleweight for a while, welcomes Hamzat Chimaev. We saw what Hamzat did at the weigh-in last time. This guy was supposed to weigh in for a 170 fight. He didn't care, waited at like 179. And obviously the whole fight card had to be changed. But Hamzat Chimaev is dangerous, man. You cannot underestimate this guy. His wrestling is insane. With that being said, before Izzy exposed Paulo Costa was dangerous. People saw him as a legitimate threat to take Izzy's middleweight championship at the time. I do feel like if Costa can work him on his feet, Chimaev is not the same as Luke Rockhold. Let's get this straight. Luke Rockhold was old. He is retired now from the UFC, but Hamzat Chimaev is an up and coming fighter, and is he a future champion? I'd say so. But with that being said, I definitely got Paulo Costa taking the win over Khamzat Chimaev by round 3 stoppage. I feel like Costa's just going to hit him so hard that Chimaev is not going to be able to recover it. Maybe a stoppage similar to Sean O'Malley, Aljamain Sterling, with that one shot that takes Chimaev down, and the ground and pound consistently from Paulo Costa causes the referee to stop the bout. But either way, that fight could also go either way. Light heavyweight, Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. That's an interesting fight to me. With Magomed Ankalaev's last fight, he was supposed to be the winner of that fight, according to many media sources. Even Jan Blachowicz believed that Magomed had done enough to want the title, his opponent. Although that fight did go to a draw, so we didn't see a UFC light heavyweight champion crown then. Magomed has what it takes. I don't know if the long layoff is going to be a factor in it. And especially with Johnny Walker looking so good in his last 2 fights with victories over Paul Craig and Anthony Smith, especially that KO victory against Paul Craig. That was impressive, as Paul Craig was one of those up-and-comers, you know. So in my opinion, that fight could also go either way, but I see Magomed taking it by unanimous decision. A great card we have to look forward to at UFC 294. But gentlemen, I want to say, can we appreciate the prelims and the early prelims on that card? It might not be looking good for the casual UFC fan, but you know, fighters like Bruno Silva, fighters like Nathaniel Wood, or Tim Elliott, Muhammad Mokaev. Dana White's really put together a great card here, and I'm looking forward to see how it all plays out. You know, that comes to us on Saturday, October 21st. It starts at 9 a.m. Pacific time here for us on the West Coast. So definitely looking forward to that card. UFC 293, Adesanya versus Strickland. Sean Strickland shocks the world. He beats Izzy for the middleweight championship, and he's able to become a UFC champion. Izzy didn't look like himself that night. Let's be honest here. That is not the Israel Adesanya we've been used to watching the past few years now. But what's next for the middleweight division? Who can Sean Strickland realistically fight next after that fight? Let's get your guys' opinions. Aryan, we'll start with you.
I think they're immediately going to give Izzy the rematch. It doesn't make the most sense to me because he did lose very badly. They're going to give Izzy the rematch. If they don't do that, they're going to give Dricus Duplessis the fight. I think that's a pretty fair fight. I think that fight should actually happen first, then have Izzy come back after. After Izzy, you know, I feel like he is probably going to open up as the favorite. I'm pretty sure he already has. But bro, Sean Strickland, man, he outclassed Izzy hard. Literally just lifted up his leg and was able to counteract the leg shots. And then he also knocked him down. First ever fighter to knock down Izzy in the UFC. And he did that with ease, just outclassed him the whole fight. It was a 4-1 in my opinion. And, you know, I think Dricus Duplessis is up there. I think Izzy should fight Whitaker. I think him and Whitaker could go at it, you know, maybe do a trilogy, just have it, just so both those guys can get back in the title picture. And then, you know, Pereira, I think he's going to win against Blachowicz perhaps, and then, you know, sets up that super fight. But yeah, definitely just want to see just a different landscape. I don't want to see Izzy again. He lost really badly. I think he should just go ahead, take a bit of a break, and then maybe fight Whitaker, get back into that talking, and then go ahead for the winner of Duplessis and your new champion, Sean Strickland. So yeah.
Now, I really want to talk about this. Was it a really bad performance from Adesanya, or was it Sean Strickland completely outclassing him? I think it was all Sean Strickland in that fight. Uh, I mean, we've all heard how Sean Strickland spars as well. He spars like 10 rounds, 5 minutes. He's different in training camp. But who could he fight next? I for sure see Duplessis fighting Sean Strickland next. And Israel, he's dominated the whole division, man. You could look down this list of all middleweights, and none of them can compare to Israel Adesanya. In my opinion, I think Sean Strickland and Duplessis should fight, and then Israel fights the winner because we've all seen Israel beat all these guys. And plus, I'm not sure how his contract is like, but his pay-per-view points must be insane. There's no reason Dana wouldn't put him at main event.
With Sean Strickland now being the champion, his list of contenders is insane. Let me just show you the top 6 in the middleweight division right now. Number 1 ranked Israel Adesanya. Number 2, Dricus du Plessis. Number 3, Robert Whittaker. Number 4, Jared Cannonier. Number 5, Marvin Vettori. Number 6, Paulo Costa. That's an insane list right there. In my opinion, there's 3 contenders that really do make sense for me. And there's fights we can put together besides this championship fight as well. I think Israel Adesanya should not get a rematch. He's been in the championship picture for a very long time now. He's lost 2 of his 3 last title fights because Pereira beat him by round 5 stoppage at UFC 281, and obviously the loss against Sean Strickland. With that being said, Dricus du Plessis really sticks out as a contender for me because he beat Robert Whittaker pretty easily. And based off of that, he should get the title shot. I don't know how that fight plays out. We'll talk about that another time. Robert Whittaker, he's still up there. I feel like it was a bad night for him at UFC 290, which contributes to why he lost. Robert Whittaker is also up there. Jared Cannonier, he's fighting Roman Dolidze on December 2nd at UFC Fight Night. So maybe considering if Jared Cannonier is able to get past Roman Dolidze, he could be up there for a title shot as well. How I would do this, Dricus du Plessis against Sean Strickland. The winner faces Israel Adesanya, as Harsimar, you were saying. But Paulo Costa, Khamzat Chimaev. What if Khamzat wins? Khamzat's not ranked in the middleweight rankings. What if Khamzat wins? Does that put Khamzat in line for a title shot?
If you want my opinion, absolutely not. There's just way too many people he has to go through to even get to that title shot. If he beats Paulo Costa, I feel like he has to fight one more person up there that's on the top 5 rankings, for him to get a chance at the title.
It'll definitely be a sight to see how the middleweight title plays, or the middleweight title picture plays out in 2024. For our last topic for MMA today, gentlemen, I want to talk to you guys about the future of the UFC heavyweight division after UFC 295. Jon Jones, Stipe Miocic are the main event of that card at Madison Square Garden. Doesn't get bigger than that. And with that being said, Jon Jones now, he's getting up there in age, as is Stipe Miocic. Miocic hasn't fought since his loss to Francis Ngannou in 2020. That's almost 3 years ago. Well, that is 3 years ago now. Obviously in 2021, he lost to Francis Ngannou in the UFC heavyweight title match at UFC 260. Jon Jones is 36 years old. He came back to the UFC for one reason. He wanted to establish himself as the greatest of all time. To be the greatest of all time, you got to beat the greatest heavyweight of all time, Stipe Miocic. So we will save the fight predictions for our future episodes, but what do you do after that fight? What if both of them retire? Cyril Gane is up there. Sergey Pavlovich is up there. One fighter I'm also really interested in is Jailton Almeida. Alexander Volkov also had a good last fight. And Sergey Pavlovich, though, that man is looking scary. So what do you guys think? If both Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic were to retire after UFC 295, how would you book the UFC heavyweight title picture?
I think Pavlovich should be up there for like their immediate contention, and then have just have just have somebody who wins a recent major fight. It's kind of weird because Derek Lewis, he just signed that fight extension with the UFC, and he could definitely be in the title picture again. I would go Gane and Sergio Pavlovich. So I think that's the most fair fight to do. Get the title contention. UFC is always getting new talents. Dana White knows what he does. Knows how to go ahead and scout these new UFC fighters and bring them into the company. So yeah, I honestly wouldn't be too anxious, but like at the same time, you got to think, okay, you're losing 2 of your top stars, but of course the middleweight division was like that. Then you got Izzy, so I definitely think a new star will arise in the UFC. This is a matter of time, and the heavyweight division is still gonna be good. It's just the heavyweight's not the most exciting form of MMA, but I think the UFC is in good hands no matter what happens. It is gonna suck seeing them go, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same. They don't have much to worry about. They've still got like killers like Pavlovich. There's Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis. We've still got killers in this division. And I believe John Jones wants to retire to go over to PFL to fight Francis Ngannou. Could talk about that, but that's just what I think his plan is for the future.
Derek Lewis, he had a good last showing against Marcus Rogerio de Lima, the flying knee. Harsimar, you and I were able to watch that card. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
We were that over at UFC 291. That was crazy to watch. How I'd book it though, I don't, in my opinion, Cyril Gane doesn't deserve another title shot unless he goes through another fight. I think that Tom Aspinall, he's obviously been up there as well. He could also have a fair shot, but I would book the winner of Curtis Blades and Jalton Almeida to face Sergey Pavlovich for that title shot if both Stipe and John Jones were to retire. Islam Makhachev, he didn't fight that many contenders on his way to the title, but we saw how dangerous he could be. Islam Makhachev was dangerous on the way to the UFC lightweight title. I see the same in Jalton Almeida. People need to stop sleeping on this guy. He definitely has that potential. I could definitely see him as a future champion. So how I would do it is I'd book Sergey Pavlovich against the winner of Curtis Blades and Jalton Almeida, maybe sometime in March of 2024, whenever Dana White would like to do that. It hasn't been officially announced yet, but January, it looks like the UFC's headed to Toronto. From what I've heard, they're coming back to our great country here in Canada. I do wish I could have attended the UFC card last year here in Vancouver. If only they gave us a better card. But based off of that, I'm really happy for the city of Toronto if they do end up getting a fight. And it looks like their main event is either going to be Sean O'Malley taking on Tito Vera, or it could be Alexander Volkanovski taking on Ilya Topuria. So I'm really excited for the city of Toronto. You know, I hope they have a great show over there. I wish it was here, but they're going to be blessed with a great card there. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
No, I'm just happy that UFC is coming over to Canada a lot more, it seems like.
I feel like a fight night is definitely gonna happen in Vancouver this year too. I feel like they want to move us slowly away from the Apex, and then Vancouver's is a prime spot, man. Like they'll sell out the crowd no matter what. Just give us a good fight, like give us a good 5-round featherweight fight, and maybe we'll show up.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure to be able to talk with you for some time here. You know, we got into the NBA, the boxing scene, as well as the MMA scene, along with the UFC. I'm looking forward as we get this podcast up and running here. Hopefully we can grow and expand. One day have our own studio, maybe, you never know. Turn this into a career. Hopefully we have some good guests lined up for the future as well. But I'm really looking forward to see how far we can take this and go. Any thoughts?
Let's see how far we could take it.
Yeah, we're going all the way up to the moon, man. Invest in us, give us a couple bucks. We'll return your money.
All right, that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for listening to The First Whistle. Stay tuned for any clips and highlights on all our social media platforms. We'll be on TikTok, Instagram at The First Whistle. Be sure to stay tuned for more coming up real soon. We'll talk to you then. Enjoy the rest of your day.